to blue. And I have been serving in these last 2 years, doing my part to focus on the needs of directly impacted people and ensuring that we're holding corporations accountable. And of course, pushing back against the Republican majority, which has ruled this state for 20 years, impacting our public education, our environment, our economy, and really driving us in a dangerous direction during the COVID-19 pandemic as well. And so I'm excited to share this space with y'all because Brevard County in particular has always held a special place in my heart. And you might be wondering why. And I mentioned that I live in Orlando. I actually grew up in Orlando. And I'm the daughter of working class immigrants from Iran. But my parents, so they were born in Iran, they actually came at different times in this country and met in Orlando working at the same donut shop. And so it's a true American love story. And they made Orlando their home. And my dad went to UCF. He became an electrical engineer at Florida Space Coast in 1994. And then also worked as a customer service representative at Walt Disney World to make ends meet. My mom had a degree from Iran she could not use, so she worked at fast food restaurants and eventually was a manager at Kmart. And that was her last job because in 2004, she passed away to cancer. And so a lot of what I do every single day is grounded in the needs of everyday people and in my own experiences with trauma, not wanting a parent to lose their child or a child to lose their parent if we could do something to prevent it. And whether it's ensuring access to healthcare, ensuring clean air and clean water, preventing gun violence, in the case of COVID-19, preventing and ending the spread, there are so many steps we can take every day. And I felt that desire as a 13-year-old to do whatever I could do to honor my mother's life, the act of empowering others. And so I got really involved on different organizations and civics, especially when I got to UCF myself. I started getting engaged with the environmental movement, the human rights movement, and eventually met the College Democrats at UCF, where I served as the vice president. My twin sister was president. And then I also was the Women's Caucus chair for Florida College Democrats. And it was during my work at UCF where I started volunteering at Planned Parenthood. And for those who don't know, Planned Parenthood is the nation's leading provider of reproductive health, education, and advocacy. And my Planned Parenthood story is like that of 1 in 5 American women, and that's as a patient. Because I came to Planned Parenthood not knowing anything about healthy relationships, about pregnancy prevention, about STIs. And I walked into a health center as an 18-year-old on my own, not knowing what to expect, and leading with a method of contraception that was right for me. And so I started volunteering at Planned Parenthood. I was hired there in 2012. And in the 6 years I worked at Planned Parenthood, I can't tell you how much of a treat it's been to work in Brevard County and to see the incredible progressive movement build in Brevard County ever since 2016. And I think that Brevard County is such a unique place to call home because you have this deep appreciation for science, for the environment, and yet the conservatism among the voters is strong, and we know that. And for years, I think people were afraid to say they were a Democrat in Brevard County. And when I worked at Planned Parenthood, we always dreamed of opening up a health center in Brevard County, and would work with advocates. And actually, the CEO of our local Planned Parenthood before I started, Sue Idenson, lived in Titusville. So we always had a connection to Brevard County and to many supporters in Brevard County, but people were always fearful to show their support publicly because of the environment. But after 2016, the movement just grew. And thanks to the leadership of folks like Stacey Patel, who joined us, I think Sanjay's here, and Sanjay is Stacey's other half. But thanks to the work of Stacey Patel in particular and others around her with the Brevard County DEC, we just saw this incredible infrastructure really blossom in Brevard County around building democratic power. And so it really is the work of everyday activists that have helped to change Brevard. And there have been election wins at a city level and most recently at a school board level. And that's in large part to folks that are taking the risk to put themselves out there as candidates. And of course, to people who are like you, who joined us tonight to say, we care about these candidates. We want to support them. We want to lift them up. And so with that said, we're really excited to bring y'all together tonight for what will be a really fun hour together, focused on 4 of our Brevard County Democratic House candidates. I am one of 47 Democrats right now in the Florida House. Out of 120 members, there are only 47 Democrats. I want y'all just to sit with that for a moment. For the Florida Senate, there's 40 members, and we're about 4 people away from flipping the Senate, and even that's still very difficult. These seats are drawn for the House to be leaning towards Republican. Even seats like District 50, where Nina is running, her seat splits between Orange County and Brevard County. And that's done on purpose because it does make it harder for Democrats to win these seats when they're drawn beyond reasonable boundaries, but to have more Republican voters than not, right? And so this is all done on purpose. And we need to realize that this election is important for not just the presidential, but also because of redistricting. And the next legislative session that we go into, we're going to have data from the US Census that will then inform the maps that are drawn, which will determine what all the legislative and congressional seats look like in 2022. So when we tell you to fill out the US Census, it's not just for fun. It's so important that folks engage at the level of being counted by the US Census, because that data will inform the seats that are drawn, and it will be lawmakers who then draw those seats. And so every level of giving, whether it's with your treasure or time, is really important for these candidates. And not only is there an intentional effort to help them win, but also realizing that every voter one of these Democrats bring out will also be a vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I believe really firmly that Florida is one of the most important states. And right now it's more of a turnout game than a persuasive game. And the more voters we can turn out, the better for these candidates and the better for the entire country. Because if we can secure Florida for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there's no way that President Trump can win. And so with that said, we are streaming live on YouTube. It's just an FYI for folks who are here. And the YouTube stream has been shared on our Facebook page. Unfortunately, we had issues with getting Facebook to work, but we are live on YouTube. And so if you want to share the link with your friends or family, feel free to. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. And like I said earlier, we want this to be really fun and high energy. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm gonna pull them out, as the facilitator for tonight's mix and mingle. And we're gonna hear from the candidates directly. So if you do have questions or comments, put them in the chat. I will pull them out. And so with that said, we want to kick up tonight with just some quick intros from all of our candidates. And so Joan, Lloyd, Nina, and Phil, you each have about 2 minutes to give us a brief introduction to who you are, and then we're going to dive into some questions. And so let's start with Joan. Joan, let us know what you're running for and who you are.
Okay, I am Joan Majid, and I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives, seat 51. So I'm in District 51, Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, Port St. John, Cocoa, Routledge. It's a huge area, and the Space Center is right there in my district, and I'm sort of proud of that because my husband he's worked there for years and years. I'm a school teacher, not currently. I'm a former New York City school teacher, and I was also an activist in the United Federation of Teachers, so I value workers, and I value workers' rights, and I'm a community advocate. I had a child who was very sick, and I did lose him. He had cancer. This is years ago. I lost him about 14 years ago. Wow. And I was exposed to the healthcare system and the inequality in it. I met people who had no insurance, private insurance, partial private, a mixture. And after going through that ordeal, I realized that we needed to really work on our healthcare system in this country because hardworking people suffer. If you happen to have money or be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you could buy the Cadillac programs, insurance plans, but the rest of us, not so much. Right. Most of all, I'm a concerned mom. I have a younger child who's 11. And I'm running for the people who do not have a voice because they're being drowned out by a lot of politicians. I'm not going to mention any names, but you know, that they're being drowned out by politicians who are supported by corporate interests, and they tend to legislate according to that too. It's a hobby of mine to study and see who's donating to the different campaigns, and it's very eye-opening. I am not one of those people. I don't think anybody here is one of those people. We are grassroots. So I'm really running for the people who are struggling, who need a representative that will actually listen to them and speak up and fight for them in Tallahassee. I plan on focusing on a robust COVID-19 recovery. That has taken the forefront because, well, I have a lot of other issues, but that is a big one because this pandemic's really deeply hurt our community. And I'm concerned about the local economy, the lack of affordable health care. It's even worse now because people who had it have lost it, and the unmet housing challenges, also the unemployment,
Right.
the strain on our public schools. I believe that the power of the people really is stronger than the people in power, and I want to prove that.
Thank you, Joan. That's amazing. Thank you so much for running and for being here. All right, Lloyd, you're up next. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you're running.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Representative Eskamani, for letting us come on board tonight. I appreciate it. And I also appreciated your story on your mother. I like to talk about in these forums why I'm a Democrat, not just what my platform is. So part of the reason I am a Democrat and why I'm fighting for District 52, which is in Melbourne, Florida, and right next to Joan, is healthcare. It's because my mother died at age 64. She was utilizing emergency rooms as her doctor. She didn't have Medicare yet. Like a lot of uninsured or underinsured families, they're dealing with major issues that we can fix. We can fix these issues right here in Florida. But we've had legislators who just kick the can down the road while people die. The equivalent of India Atlantic in my district dies every year in Florida from things that are preventable. I'm fighting for climate. That's my main issue that I'm focusing on, and I drafted the preamble to the Florida Green New Deal equivalent because I believe we have to do something bold right here in Florida to create jobs. I'm doing this for my children. I want them to grow up in a Florida that doesn't flood every month, that is sustainable and resilient and brings new green technology jobs. And speaking of jobs, we have to diversify our economy right here on the Space Coast, but across Florida. I'm doing that because my sister, up until a year ago, was working off $10 an hour managing a grocery store and could barely support her family. So we need to get to a living wage. So I'm happy that, you know, there's an amendment this year, but we need to do better to take care of Florida's working class. And not just that, we need to make sure that we can take care of small businesses right here in Florida. There's a morality issue to this election that we have to focus on. And that's what I'm running on as well. People will tell you that there's people that aren't undecided. Well, I can tell you that people are decided on morality, transparency, accountability. All of those things are on the ballot right here in District 52 this year. And so I'm looking to flip a very red conservative district because we have had a legislator who has been gone for 7 months while a pandemic raged and people died. I think we can do better, and I applaud people like Representative Eskamani who've been fighting every day as a de facto case manager to get people paid, because there are the same people right here in Brevard County who have been having to go to you because they haven't had a legislator available to them. So we're looking to fix that. We need to flip it. And it starts with fighting the money machine. It starts with making sure our voice can be heard. But at the end of the day, we need people who truly believe in what they're talking about and are really going to fight for their district. So thank you for this opportunity. And I look forward to further questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lloyd. All right, Nina, you're next. Tell us what seat you're running for and why you are running.
Okay, I'm Nina Yoakum, and I'm running for seat 50, State House District seat 50, and I actually was volunteering around the neighborhood while I was raising my children because I had already worked for a long time. I had 2 children, surprise, surprise, back to back in my early 40s. And so I had already worked for a long while. And so I decided, since their dad traveled a lot, to stay home and raise them. And I was volunteering with the group after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened on Valentine's Day when 17 died and 17 were injured. And I worked with a fabulous group of people in Avalon Park, which is southeast Orange County. And we were working hard together, and very intelligent group of people. And we came up with 9 points that we thought we'd put together that could be a bill for my representative to take back down to Tallahassee with them. And so we went with him and we had him over to one of the gals' houses, and he just kind of tossed it aside and said, I don't think these will work much. And then he went back down to Tallahassee and he voted for to arm the teachers in the schools. And so when that happened, and I really saw his attitude towards all of us at the meetings, we had a couple with them, and I just thought, there's no way in hell, excuse me, YouTube and everybody, but I thought there's no way we're going to change his mind about anything. He has his mind set already. And the only way this is going to change is to flip the seat blue. And so I looked around at everybody that could possibly run in that group of about 12 of us. And nobody else could run because of situations in their homes. And so I decided, is this a good time for me to run? My daughter was going off to college. My husband works away from home, and my son was going to be a senior while I would be campaigning. So I thought it's a good time for me to run. And so I said, I can do this. So I went home and talked to my family, and they said, you know, we have your back. And then COVID came. So everybody's at home. My husband got laid off. My daughter's home from Kansas, going to college at KU in our bedroom. But we're all still here, but everybody still backs me, and I'm still working these last 33 days as hard as I can to flip the seat blue. And it's going well right now. I'm really gaining momentum, and I'm going to try as hard as I can these last 33 days to flip it.
Awesome. Thank you, Nina. And thank you so much for sharing your personal story, for each one of you for sharing your personal stories and telling, you know, the issues like gun violence and public education, healthcare are so personal to each one of us. So thank you for that. We have one more candidate to give us his intro. Please join us in welcoming Phil Moore. If you can tell us what seat you're running for and why you're running.
Sure. Thank you so much, Anna and Cheyenne and everybody for putting this together and for everybody being here. Anna, your work ethic really inspires. And so I appreciate you taking out some time just to try to help us out and flip some seats here in Brevard County. And it's nice to see, you know, you even put a little bit of makeup on, and you always work so hard. So every time I see you're always working all nighters and pulling that. So I'm sure you're going to be doing a couple more things tonight. But thank you for taking some time.
Some too, Phil. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know. I don't have to worry about all of that. And again,
I noticed you did your hair today.
My name is Lloyd, and I am running for House District 52. And I put my tie on today because I wanted to sit, you know, kind of differentiate ourselves. And since we're going to be asking for money, I figured I should kind of dapper up a little bit, you know, shower and everything. So, but I appreciate it. So my name again is Phil Moore, running for state representative in District 53. You know, I'm running again. I ran in 2018, and I'm running again against a very divisive and nasty opponent. The only thing that we have in common is we're the same age. And besides that, one of us acts like an adult and the other one acts like a child. One of us will bully and intimidate people, and whether they be constituents or other elected officials, your local officials. One of us is a millionaire and the other one is part of the working class, which is me. I'm part of the working class. I'm not the millionaire. One of us, you know, gets all his campaign money from special interest and the special interest groups that pay his campaign. And I work with trying to get my grassroots going with everybody here. And so we're really cut from two different cloths, and we take two different perspectives as to what Florida really needs. And I think with COVID and the unemployment system, I was affected and had to apply for unemployment, and he taxed me on that. He attacks people, 2 million people who have had to file for unemployment. My opponent is attacking people and saying, you need to get back to work. You're healthy and you should be working. And I think that's exactly what we want to get away from. Somebody who is going to go to Tallahassee, who is supposed to be a state representative and be the judge and jury for other people, rather than trying to figure out how to help those people. So we have somebody who's here in town who is going to lie about my past history, bring up personal issues that has no bearing on anything on what we're talking about in terms of what we need to do for the state of Florida. And that's why I'm running. I know we need better representation here. We need less millionaires in Tallahassee and more working class citizens like myself, so that we can actually bring a livable wage to Florida, or make sure that we're not getting people in the pockets of special interest groups, to make sure that we're dealing with what the everyday person is dealing with, which soon is going to be what I believe a housing crisis. So that's one of the main reason why I ran again is I saw we had a person who had just done the same thing in the past 2 years, 2 years prior, just sit there and attack other people, be a petulant child. And we need somebody who's going to bring this position back to the professionalism that it deserves. And so that's why I decided to run again. It's a very flippable seat. I hope we can do it this time. And I know we can do it if we make sure that, as Anna was mentioning, we turn out the voters and get everybody to vote. And I think that'll work up and down ballot for a lot of us, So
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Phil. And I just want to echo those points too around the importance of every vote and also every dollar. And even if you feel like you only have $10 to throw at each one of these candidates, it's worth it, because especially in the COVID-19 world, a lot of efforts that have traditionally been the best for Democrats and also the least expensive, like door knocking, are off the table, right? For the sake of public safety, many of us have opted not to door knock anymore. We are doing literature drops and social distance conversations as we can. But there's a lot of concern, and rightly so, about an actual door knock conversation, which means a lot of candidates are spending more money on things like digital communications and Facebook ads and Google ads, and really trying to make sure that we're present in people's day-to-day lives in different ways. And you can run an effective Facebook ad for not much money, but it does take dollars for even from even a little amount to have a difference. And so if you're able to chip in, I know in the chat, Shala from our team is sharing everyone's website links. And I saw Sarah Ann, ask, can we have a collective donation opportunity going around? And so I just saw Lloyd, he posted a link as well. And so a lot of great opportunities to donate to candidates and to donate to Democrats who are in these red districts and try and flip them blue. So again, thank you for being part of this and wanting to see this change in Brevard County. With that said, we're going to dive into some topics, and then we're going to do some rapid fire questions before we wrap up for the night. But my first question goes to Joan. We all know you're a fierce advocate for education. So could you maybe spend, maybe 2 minutes just kind of telling us what are your goals for education in Florida, and how would you like to see funding be used in the education system for our kids?
Okay. Well, my goals are way too long to list all tonight, but funding is at the key of a lot of these goals. I would like to see us work to stop our public money going to private schools and private charter schools, because I feel it's robbing us. People can opt to choose their child, to send their child to a private school. Everybody's got the option. I'm not against private schools, but I am against my taxpayers and everybody money and all the other taxpayers supporting these schools. They don't have the same regulations. They're allowed to choose who they want in their school. Our public schools are, and so the job of public school teachers is a lot more difficult and challenging, because we're dealing with the full spectrum of children in our state. We're not just dealing with the cream of the crop kids that get into this private school, and that's one of the big problems. Also, I have been for years, ever since No Child Left Behind became the law of the land, which is federal. I taught in New York when it started, and it sort of tied our hands, because all of a sudden, teachers lost their ability to be the professionals that they trained to be. and that their experience taught them to be, because it was a top-down order. And this is what's going on now in every state. It's still, I know there have been some improvements. I wasn't that excited about the DeSantis's new improvements, because there's so much that's not being said and done. The teaching to the test culture came along with No Child Left Behind, and it's motivated by corporate entities. That's what really started it. Politicians and their donors in the educational product and testing fields have been the engine promoting the legislation that instituted this on the federal and the state level. Everything has been tied to tests. I am not against testing. You've got to test a student to know what they're learning, where their weaknesses, where their strengths are. But the reason for it is for the teacher. So the teacher can do that. These tests now, it was the FCAT, now it's the FSA. Changed the name, it's still the same kind of high stakes test. Number one, not all children test well, and they've been using it to hold over children. I'm in favor of portfolios with teacher created testing until they get to a higher grade. I don't like grooming. My child in pre-K was being groomed for testing. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock, because it's not appropriate. Also, the teachers' salaries or their bonus pay is tied to test scores, which is unfair. I myself taught in a school that was a real challenge. Children didn't have the benefit of kids in upper middle class neighborhoods, because the kids their parents themselves, a lot of them were illiterate or struggling. They didn't have the extra enrichment. So of course those kids are not going to do as well on tests. It's just unfair that teachers would be judged and schools would be judged based slowly on these tests. I don't know how much more time I have. I have so much to talk about with education.
We know you're both passionate and smart about it, and I just want to echo your points too around the testing culture and the prioritization of public education, which is an intentional effort to dismantle these systems that are so essential to a productive and healthy community. And so yeah, no, we appreciate you. We can revisit some of these topics too, but I think for now I want to go to Lloyd actually and toss Lloyd a question. You mentioned in your opening remarks a little bit more about the COVID-19 response. And so could you kind of speak to what would you suggest as steps the legislature take to make this recovery one that doesn't leave people behind?
Sure, thank you. And that's been one of the things I've been harping on throughout this entire process, is to just do something. We had a process to have a special legislative session. I think all of the Republicans voted no for that special legislative session that would have addressed key issues related to the COVID-19 economic response, because we had to do something right away. A fundamental understanding of economics says that you need to re-stimulate the economy. You need to make sure that you have an unemployment system that works, that follows along with the national average, and that can extend out to 26 weeks. You need to work with the public and private sectors just to make sure that your economy can be sustainable for the long term. So right after COVID-19 hit, I did come out with an economic plan called Florida Next, that focused on what are the short-term care dollars that we could spend right here in Brevard County, and what do we do for the long term to build a sustainable, robust, recession-proof economy right here in Florida. So again, that focuses on paying people a living wage. It focuses on making sure that we fix our broken unemployment system. Thad Altman, who I'm running against, is one of the 7 legislators left who actually voted for the unemployment system that is broken. He was in office again when they built the Connect system that is terrorizing Floridians to this day. I still believe there's over 1 million people that are still waiting on the right payments to come in. This is completely unacceptable. It's immoral. Our fundamental role as legislators is to make sure that the people of Florida are taken care of. And so we failed in that regard. So I've really challenged Thad Altman throughout this entire process on doing something, and he's done nothing. So the first step of going into Tallahassee is to, 1, work on a economic response plan to make sure that we can get our unemployment down below 9.2% to a sustainable level. We can make sure small businesses are recovering the right way, and we can make sure that we're building a long-term sustainable plan for our small businesses instead of giving money back to corporations during a global pandemic, which is absolutely scandalous. If we do all of these things in tandem, we can build a very robust economy that grows over the years. We can build a sustainable Florida that is built on green technology, still supports the aerospace industry, but doesn't downturn in a pandemic. So these are things that I'm hopeful to work with you on in terms of legislation once we get to Tallahassee, because fundamentally, the economic model that Republicans support, which is the trickle-down method, is not sustainable and doesn't build growth. When you work on a middle-out approach for working-class Floridians, we can grow 8 to 10 times larger because we're focusing on investment in small business and the working class, because that's who spends the money, right? So I'm excited to fix the problems here in Florida because there's so many people that are hurting. And Stacy and Sanjay Patel are on right now, and they've been doing their best to solve issues during this crisis because we have a lack of procedure, policy, support, legislator support right here in Brevard County. And we absolutely have to get to work on this right now. So thank you for helping us as well during this crisis. I've been doing my best, but I can only do so much right now until I get elected.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Lloyd. And I want to give a quick shout out. I know that Sanjay Patel is here. Sanjay is also a candidate himself running at the county level. So I want to give a shout out to Sanjay. Feel free to post your link in the chat if you want to. And then also I saw that Michelle Passione popped on, and Michelle is a former councilwoman from Palm Bay and a longtime leader in Brevard County. So always awesome to see some of our movers and shakers here. I see Pam Dershka. Pam ran for state office in 2018. So really cool to see some familiar faces and folks that are also running for office themselves. With that said, I'm going to toss the next question back to Nina to talk about gun violence. And so we know that that's one of the issues you're very passionate about. So can you speak more to this issue, and what would be the legislation you'd like to accomplish in the Florida House to keep our kids safe and all of our Floridians safe, both in their personal lives and also in some of these public spaces like schools?
Right. Well, I have liked the idea of allowing governments to enact their own firearm safety ordinances. And that's only true in 8 places in the United States, to my understanding. And 8 states, and I think it's a great idea. That'd be one to try. And I think that also getting rid of the conceal and carry on college campuses would be a great idea. Anna, I know you went to college a lot later than I did, but even when I was in college, there was so much drinking and drugging even back then, and horrible things happened, and horrible things happened to me. And I wasn't the only one that they happened to. And I know with you working at Planned Parenthood, you know a lot of horrible things happen to girls, not just girls, but girls on college campuses when people are drinking and drugging. And so with guns on college campuses as well, I just think that's really critical that they get the guns off the college campuses. And then another thing I think is a great idea, even though Orlando is so smart because we're so blue over here, but but it's so red in Brevard that I think that getting the guns out of the teachers' hands is also another thing to revote. And then the things that we took down to Coach P, I would like to just take down there myself this time and share them with you and the powers that be. And maybe we really could turn them into a bill and get maybe 5 of them in there. I know it's still going to be hard to pass, but maybe we can flip that house blue. I think crazier things that have happened because I think that a lot of people don't like the president right now. And so maybe they'll vote straight down ballot, which is my prayer. And so we'll see what happens.
Totally. Well, and I just want to let folks know I'm a firm believer in voting up ballot. So I do think that these local candidates will help get out the vote for Joe Biden. A lot of money is being spent on the Joe Biden campaign. We see the investments in Florida. We see more investments in Florida. But sometimes people don't finish their ballots, right? So it's so important that we organize from the top and from the bottom so that folks don't just check off president and then call it a day, right? So that's why it's so important that we have candidates running, and really proud of what you're doing, Nina. It's not easy. And so, much love and respect to everyone taking this courageous leap forward for Brevard County. And that brings me back to Phil to talk about local control. So Brevard County is a very long long county, right? I think it's about 60 miles long. And within Brevard County, there are many cities. And I've actually had the chance to talk to many city managers and city commissioners in Brevard County who expressed to me the frustration of Tallahassee legislators, Republicans in particular, overriding local control and home rule. Nina mentioned in her remarks around local gun safety ordinances, those are actually preempted by the state of Florida. So a local city and county can't even put into place their own protections around gun safety. Just like they are banned from putting regulations around sunscreen, tree trimming, 5G technology, so many other issues that have been preempted by the legislature, really for no other reason beyond corporations asking them to do that. And so, Phil, we know that you have been a fierce advocate for home rule since your first election back in 2018. Why is home rule so important? And what are your reflections on some of the governor's most recent actions against home rule during the COVID-19 pandemic, with the governor declaring phase 3 and actually tying local government's hands if they wanted to do any type of mask enforcement and things like that?
Yeah, it's a really important question. I think it's one that the regular citizen doesn't really understand until that occurs, at how important state legislative races are and how much they impact what's happening in your regular life. There's an irony there in that years ago, the Republican Party used to be the party of small government. And now, since they've held control in Tallahassee for so long, they no longer want to have local governments govern at the local level. They want to hold all the control in Tallahassee. And that's what we've seen happen. We've seen happen over time, more and more, these preemptive laws come into play. And again, this is another thing that separates me completely from my opponent. My opponent, from the immediate moment he got elected, he was filing preemptive bills, once he got elected, he wanted the control. So that's what we see, not keeping the control with the citizens at the local level, which I believe is best, because if you have an issue at your local level, the best thing you can do is go to your local city council member, go to your mayor, go to your county commissioner, and voice that concern with them, and they can deal with it. Now, as a legislator, we're only in office for 4 months out of the year, technically, right? I know a lot, like yourself, work a lot longer, many more months of the year, but those opportunities to be able to deal with those things for a local level, they can deal with those all year long. So it's much more advantageous to have local government, small government, be able to deal with everybody, the regular citizen, on issues like that. Now, the impact on some of those things you mentioned are direct. If we have a preemptive law like has been put in place for banning plastics, where we have seen some local municipalities want to see plastic bans, single-use plastic bans, but yet at the state level, they went ahead and just overrid everything and said, nope, you can't do that, because, as you were mentioning, the special interest groups are in Tallahassee. They're lobbying, which would be the oil companies, petroleum companies, because that's what basically plastics are made out of, and saying, you know what, we can't have any types of bans on our products like that. And so rather than what the local community might want, which might affect them directly, we have these preemptive bans that overrule everything. Now, going back to what you mentioned about the governor, very disturbing in my perspective. We have a governor, and what I would look at the Commissioner of Education on how they are putting these I would call bully tactics in place, where they are saying to our local, even school boards in this case, if you don't do what we say, we're pulling all your money. And for our local school boards throughout the state, there was this threat of, if we don't open our schools back up for our children during COVID, that they're not going to be able to get funded. And that is a basic, that's like supersedes like all preemptions right there, and basically not allowing them to do what is best in their own community. And COVID hit different communities in different ways. And I spoke to our own school board members on this issue. And I said, look, this is party politics. This is what they're going to be doing in Tallahassee. I recognize it right away. I said, we have to call their bluff. We have to stand up for what we want to do in our community. And unfortunately, there weren't enough. You had to fold because there was nothing else we could do. And they did take the lawsuit too. There was a lawsuit, and I think they're going to appeal it. And I'm not sure where that's going to go from there. But it speaks to a fundamental change that we need to look at it as to what our job as legislators are. I'm going to finish up by saying I have a very good relationship with all of our local leaders. And if we want to be effective legislators, we want to be able to talk to our local leaders, see what our problems are in our district, and be able to go and advocate for that in Tallahassee. If we have somebody like my opponent, he's going to burn bridges with almost everybody locally, condemn them, persecute them, and literally just berate them, and then go to Tallahassee and think he can dictate. So it's the opposite of what we need to try to do. We need to try to combine our forces, work together, see where we have some gaps, see where we're doing well. And I told all of my elected officials that I spoke to in 2018, and I reiterate this in 2020, if we're having issues, let me know about it, because I can then know what's happening and be able to address that, because I'm going to get hit with these questions too. Well, this is happening in Brevard, you know, what's happening in Melbourne or what's happening in Palm Bay. I can help fix the problem. But instead, we don't have that happening right now. We need legislators who are going to help our local communities out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil. All right, y'all, we're going to transition to some of our rapid fire questions. And then we're going to actually have Stacey Patel, who's here, be our closure for the night. So I'm very excited about that. And so these rapid fire questions are meant for you just to kind of answer very quickly. And what we're going to do is go to each person first and then go to the second question. So I'm going to ask the first question, and then it'll be Joan, Lloyd, Nina, then Phil, who each answer one after the other. And then I'll go to the second question. Does that sound good? Get some thumbs up, head nods.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Yeah, Nina?
Can I interrupt real quick before you
Sure.
rapid fire? Because it sounds like Stacey's going to end it. I would like to thank you, Anna, and I would like to thank Cheyenne, excuse me, and I would like to thank Joan, and I would like to thank her campaign manager, Liz. And there we go.
Thank you, Nina.
To do
I
that.
appreciate that. Yeah, much gratitude to everyone. We know that these efforts do not happen overnight, and so much love and respect to all of our staff and volunteers and everyone joining us tonight, for sure. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get ready. So the first rapid fire question, and like I said, these are meant to be easy and fun, so don't panic. But the first one is, what's one issue that you don't think gets enough attention, but would be a priority for you? So one issue that doesn't get a lot of attention, but would be a priority. So Joan, what's that issue?
To me, the homeless problem. I don't think it gets enough attention. We talk about it, but it doesn't happen. Nothing happens.
Totally. All right, Lloyd?
It's climate change. It begins and ends with climate change. We not only have to get to carbon neutral, but we have to get carbon negative past 2050 to reverse the effects of any type of climate change effects right here in Florida. We have to do it. If we don't tackle that and intertwine it with our economy to build green jobs, then we will not have a Florida that's sustainable for the next 200, 300 years.
Awesome. Right on. Nina?
I have one. People, when they're out of insurance, also have bad teeth, and they don't have anybody who can address their dental problems. And when you have bad dental problems, you have bad pain and bad health problems as well. It leads to infection all over your body. So something to be done in the area of insurance for your teeth as well, for your mouth.
Great point. Yeah, dental care. Absolutely. Phil, what's your one issue that doesn't get enough attention?
Well, I think it does get enough attention now. It's actually an amendment, and I want to make sure that I mentioned it, but it's the wage gap and the livable wage that we need in this state. And I think if we had a good livable wage for people, they would be better able to handle pandemics. They would have more money in their bank accounts so that if they were having to pay their mortgage on their own, if they had a gap that had to be met for uninsurance claims, they would be able to do that. But we haven't. We have people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and everybody, well, not everybody, there's a lot of people that are one emergency away from financial disaster, and we still have that today. And so we're not able to handle the next pandemic for everybody because they're going to be in the same situation. So we need to be able to proactively work to fix that.
Thanks, Phil. So we have homelessness, we have climate change, we have dental care, and the wage gap. Y'all, you know your stuff and you care about everyday people, which is amazing. And as Jacita just put in the chat too, Medicaid doesn't cover dental care. So it is a major gap of service for sure. All right, second rapid fire question, going back to Joan. What is something you have learned since running for office?
I have learned that it's not what I thought it would be. And that's an understatement. I've also learned that a campaign is not the candidate. It's everybody who helps the candidate. That really, and I can see that that's also how it works up in the legislature. So I think this is preparing me for that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joan. All right, what do you say, Lloyd? Something that you didn't know, but now you've learned it.
I would say that I learned that printing out signs is very hard. And then going out the next day to find that they've all been stolen is heartbreaking, which is what 90% of my signs were stolen within, I think, a week period, which I think is great. That means that they're scared of you, I hope. But it's backbreaking work. So to every volunteer who goes out to do that, snaps to you for that. But that's what I learned.
That's a big one. Absolutely. Nina, how about you? What have you learned?
I've learned that some days are diamonds and some days are coal.
Aww.
And you never know what you're going to get.
I think that's just great life advice, right? For sure. All right, Phil, how about you? Something that you've learned since running for office?
Well, I ran in 2018 and I felt I was running out of necessity because we needed to make sure that we had people to run on the ballot. And I was in the district and I didn't know if that's what I want to do. It was never my intention and purpose to say I want to be a politician and be an elected official even. But after doing it in 2018, I realized, you know what? I want to do this job. I want to help out the community. I want to go to Tallahassee and I want to be a legislator to help be a voice for the people that is so needed in Tallahassee. So I saw that and I said, you know what? I can do this. I can make my life schedule so that I can do this job. I can commit the time and effort. And I learned that, you know what, this is something I want to do. It wasn't something that I just had saying that, you know, this is going to be what I want to do for a living. But I've grown into wanting to do this job and I really enjoy it. I've gone to Tallahassee a number of times and advocated for the things we're trying to fight for, whether it be the environment or whether it be for equal rights. So I want to continue doing that just from the other end. I want to be on the other side of the table.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. All right. Another rapid fire question. This one's a little fun too. What's your favorite spot in Brevard? So Joan, let us know. Favorite spot in Brevard County.
Favorite spot, and I share it with everybody. The Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, so good. Great choice.
And also Playa Linda's like borders on it. And it is my place. It's my spiritual place and my everything place. And I've been telling people, I just want to take a day and get away from the campaign and go up there. And I still haven't done it. I'm going to do it.
I was just saying, wait after November 3rd if you can. But it is so beautiful. It truly is. That's awesome. All right, y'all. If you haven't checked out the Merritt Island National Refuge, you definitely need to. It's a beautiful spot. Lloyd, tell us, favorite spot in Brevard County.
Is it bad that my place is a bar? It's actually the Irish Cottage in Melbourne, which is phenomenal.
Right.
They have great Wi-Fi. They're LGBTQ friendly. My daughter is gay, so we can go there and have a good breakfast free of judgment. And it is the best place to work at 4 p.m. when you just want to have a beer and work on your campaign. I love it. They're great there.
Very sweet. Love it. Love it. Gotta check it out. Support our small businesses for sure.
Right.
All right, Nina, favorite spot in Brevard County?
I'd have to say right now it would be Jetty Park.
Aw, good choice too. Yeah.
I have to say Jetty Park. We used to have a sailboat in Merritt Island, and we just got rid of it before coronavirus because we weren't getting over there. But then once coronavirus came, we wished we would have not gotten rid of it, because we wish we would have just gone out on that and stayed during coronavirus. It would have been a perfect place. But having sold that little boat, we would say Jetty Park, hanging out on the beach.
Awesome. I love the beach too. Phil, what's your favorite spot in Brevard County?
So it's in my district, and it's called the Turkey Creek Sanctuary. And
Cool.
it is a beautiful place where they have a nice nature trail, which I go, and in the morning, I used to go a lot, but I don't anymore, but I used to go mountain biking. And I would take my mountain bike on the trail there or go run it in the mornings. It's great in the mornings. I mean, you would see bobcats, you would see everything out there first thing in the morning, and you get hit by all the spider webs because you'd be out there first thing. But I still love going out there when I get a chance and just going out mountain biking. There's like a nice 7-mile trail. It's protected by Eels land. So it's really great if you get a chance to get out there. It's called the Turkey Creek Sanctuary.
That's awesome. Thanks, Phil. And I actually do have one more rapid fire question that's campaign oriented, that's important for especially tonight. Could each one of you just tell us, what is your October fundraising goal? Because we know October just started. It's October 1 tonight. Everyone here, everyone watching will be some of your first donors for the month of October, hopefully. And so could you just quickly tell us, what is your October fundraising goal? Joan, you can go first.
Wishful thinking.
That's manifest the world that you want, right? So what is it?
With my ideas, 10,000 would be really good.
Okay, $10,000. All right, that's that. I always think that's doable. Lloyd, what do you think?
So $10,000 is spot on to get the right mailers targeted to the right people. It's absolutely necessary.
Okay, 10,000 again. Nina, what's your October fundraising goal?
30,000.
All right. Wow. I feel like this is like The Price is Right. That's awesome. Good deal. 30K. Phil, what's your October fundraising goal?
It is the same. It's $10,000.
Okay. Amazing. All right, y'all. So just so, for context sake, right? $10,000, I know it sounds like a lot, but when you break that down by every single day in a month, it really isn't that much money a person has to raise, but they can only do it with your support and with your network. A $10 donation made multiple times with multiple different people helps a person reach $10,000. And so I know the folks here can do that. As we wrap up, I just want to say thank you again for joining us for this really special night, celebrating and lifting up our Brevard County State House Democratic candidates. I'm going to now throw it over to the one and only Stacey Patel, who is the chairwoman of the Brevard County Democratic Party. And so I think you are on Sanjay's Zoom name, but we're going to toss it over to Stacey to help us. Both are here, even better.
Thanks, all here.
Help us close. Thank you, Stacey, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for hosting, Anna. And I think Joan's team did a lot of work on this event too. So thank you so much for your creativity in putting this together. First of all, I just want to say how proud I am of all of you. Just listening to you tonight, you're ready to go to Tallahassee. So I'm super, super proud to witness your becoming. So I can't wait to see you up there with Anna. I think you're going to have a great time together. And we are going to do, as you know, everything we can as the Brevard Democrats here in this last 33 days to lift you up and get you up there. We are going to knock tens of thousands of doors this weekend. Our ballots went out today. So we know this is a really, really important time for all of your campaigns. And I also want to encourage anyone else who is on the line to donate. I have seen and witnessed since 2016 just what it means when you give $5 to a cause, right? it's our intention. It is our combined intention that creates change in our community. So I think you're beautiful to witness.
Thank you, Stacy. This is a large part of the work
so much.
that you've done in building infrastructure in Brevard County, and just hearing the amount of doors you've touched and the play cards y'all built. I mean, a lot of this could never have happened in Brevard County if it wasn't for your sacrifice and your leadership. And so much love and respect to Stacy Patel and to everyone who joined us tonight. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Shala from our team has been posting the donation links in the chat. So please give what you can tonight. I'm serious. $5 for each one of these candidates, $10. It does make a difference. And think about 5 other people in your network who could do the same, right? When we build collective impact driven by everyday people, it's transformational what we can do. And know that every $5, $10, $50 gift you give to a candidate tonight, their efforts will also help flip the state for Vice President Joe Biden to be the next president of the United States. And I know that each one of us here, we want that goal in addition to winning these local seats. And so thank you again for joining us tonight. I wish everyone stay healthy and be safe. And let's give it all you got. You know, we have only 30 some days left. So if you're able to make phone calls with these candidates, help them do literature drops, spread the word on social media, please make that happen. It still always surprises me, even in a district that we've worked so hard in here in District 47, the number of people who still don't vote and the number of people who are undecided this cycle. And so trust me, even in seats like mine, where we've served for 2 years now, people still do not know to vote. They still don't realize that they have a state house representative. And so there's a major education gap with the voters that we need to come out, and we can only solve it through supporting candidates and giving our time and our treasure. And so with that said, I wish everyone a beautiful night. Thank you again for joining us. And let's win big. Let's win big this November. Good night, everyone.